One of the things I really can't stand about feminists is how they exploit their own lexicon and terminology by using very powerful and emotional and visceral words and using them so heinously inappropriately that the words lose their impact and meaning. We've seen feminists take words like rape and take it all the way from the forced sexual penetration of a woman, because let's face it, they won't acknowledge that men get raped by both men and women, so let's just keep it simple, keep it feminist. The forced sexual penetration of a woman all the way down to being stared at and made uncomfortable. Not all feminists do this, but they have. But the word I want to talk to you about, or rather the concept that gets unraveled into a word, and then that word is furiously abused while always pointing back to the concept, is the subject-object dichotomy. Now, this is an actually interesting principle that actually has some consequence in stories and in real life, although this is usually used to talk shit about entertainment media and fiction. The subject-object dichotomy is often simply presented as subjects act, objects are acted upon, but is more often used to describe, sorry, I got the dog here, a situation where a woman is treated as non-essential to a story or a plot or a situation. That is, she is not part of the narrative. She is not like a main character or even a side character. She's window dressing. She could be, most often probably the example used is, you know, the princess trapped up in the castle keep to be only seen and rescued at the end by the hero, gets a big kiss, the end. That actually kind of makes sense, but then that is simply held over here, and then we take a little piece of it down and we call it sexual objectification, or even simply just objectification. And this word has been so thoroughly fucking abused that people actually don't know what it means anymore. I want to talk about something I saw that a while ago that after some thought prompted me to make this video. It was Angry Joe, who is a video game reviewer and streamer on YouTube, very popular, talked about a game called Metal Gear Solid 5. Now, I've never played any of the Metal Gear Solid games, except for a part of 2 and 3, and I've never played Metal Gear Solid 5, but he talked at length about a character called Quiet. Now, Angry Joe described the character as very intriguing and fascinating and had a great story arc, and him as well as a lot of his fans in the comments section loved this character. However, Angry Joe didn't speak very much about this character. He spoke about this character's appearance. Quiet is apparently a woman who has to breathe through her skin and drink through her skin. For some reason can't do anything with her mouth, and therefore needs to be virtually naked at all times. Therefore, at all times, Quiet is portrayed as basically just being in a two-piece bikini and little else except for straps to hold her weapons. So she's all but naked throughout the entirety of the game, and she's frequently shown in very sexual ways with the camera angles zooming right in on her boobs and her butt, and she's animated to be jiggly and all that shit. And I can understand a measure of discomfort coming from seeing this character and going, come on. I can at least appreciate that you gave me a reason why she's just all around being slutty and shit, although it's not really being slutty because she's not being sexual on purpose as far as I can tell, but simply that she's eye candy, that she's fan service, as they often call it. And yeah, she's sexual. But is she an object? Is she being objectified? No. No, Angry Joe. No. You'd get that joke if you've ever seen his videos. This is a character who has a story, who has an arc, who has a reason for being there, is, I think, at least partially playable, and matters all the time when you bring her in on missions. She can be a sniper that supports you. She has an arc. I keep saying this. She's not meaningless. She's not window dressing. She's not a character who dies just to motivate you. And she's not a princess locked in a tower. She's not objectified. She is sexualized almost to the point of absurdity, in my opinion, but that's only my opinion, and apparently a lot of opinions, and in Angry Joe's opinion. But Angry Joe even just went on, just talking about this character, to prove that she's not being objectified, and that simply that word has changed to mean this character is sexualized in such a way that I find either absurd or makes me uncomfortable. Now, Angry Joe didn't say anything about if he thinks this can never happen, to have a sexualized character. And in fact, he has in other reviews said that he doesn't have a problem with sexuality in characters or characters being openly sexual in the way they look. But because the way this character was presented in certain situations made him very uncomfortable, and therefore this character is objectified. No. This character is not an object that is acted upon. It's just a character that is ridiculously dressed and is shown in a way to say, look at how hot this character is. There's nothing wrong with that. And then they'll take things like saying prostitution is objectification. Stripping is objectification. Being a porn actress is objectification. No, 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 and no. Consenting adults doing a job on purpose for pay, many of them probably even enjoying it. Are they being objectified? No. Are they slaves that we use for our own amusement, strip them naked and make them dance? No. These are professionals doing a job, an occupation. Why are they objectified? Well, certain people who overuse this word objectified are uncomfortable at their occupation, at their appearance. They're uncomfortable that the job is essentially to be leered at or to be made to have sex with, or not made to even have sex with, just to have sex with people, whether legally or illegally. They're uncomfortable with that. And therefore, nobody else, regardless of their measure of comfort, are allowed to watch this, or to see this, or to do this. And it all comes from taking a concept that is actually interesting and speaks to the difference between somebody who's willing or unwillingly participating in an act, and also whether somebody is meaningful or meaningless to a narrative, to a story, to an event in real life, whatever. That makes sense. That could be important, and that could be an important thing to think about when you're seeing something. But then we get it all the way down to this situation, this person makes me uncomfortable, therefore it's a sin, it's problematic, it's objectifying. No. This is a feminist taking an issue that is silly and petty and unremarkable and just inconsequential, and then telling you it's a sin, and not only that, but maybe it should be a crime. That this shouldn't be presented in fiction nor in fact. It should be eradicated, as all problematic things must be eradicated. Well, let me tell you, you childish feminist who heard me say all this and still disagrees with me. Fuck you, okay? If you lack the self-awareness and sense of proportion of things, the perspective to differentiate between what is actually objectifying and what just makes you uncomfortable, then I do not respect you nor your opinion. Because that is fucking ridiculous. Patently ridiculous. Demonstrably ridiculous. You're past the point about caring about consent, or caring about the willingness or even the enjoyment of the person you think is being objectified. And you can't even be bothered to think about that person, let alone your use of these words. If you think the concept of objectification is important, and you can only think of objectification as its own thing, and you cannot differentiate between the most petty and downright not objectification examples that you lump in there with actual objectification, if you want to lump in trafficked child slave with video game character with showing too much skin, you're fucking ridiculous. And I mean that. And you should be ashamed. Okay? And if you don't get that, I feel sorry for you. There's something seriously wrong with your thinking. And I hope you fix it soon. Thanks for watching.